Hello and welcome. In this episode, Luke overthinks Doctor Who Fluxx. Last week I went, in a very short space of time, from not knowing that Doctor Who Fluxx existed to buying it. And I've played it a few times and I thought I'd give it a quick review. For those of you that don't know Fluxx, here is a brief description of the rules.
The game starts with the basic rule card, and everyone has 3 cards dealt to them. In Fluxx there are 6 types of cards. First, there are the new rule cards, which change how the game is played. They might change the number of cards you pick up, for example. Then there are goal cards, which set out what combination of cards you need to win. The goal can change frequently throughout the game. Keepers are the cards that combine to meet the goals. Creepers generally stop goals being accomplished, so you need to get rid of them. There are a few goals, however, that require you to collect a combination of creepers. Action cards make things happen, anything from swapping hands with another player to removing all of a certain type of card from the table, etc. Finally, you have surprise cards, which are similar to action cards, but with the added bonus that you can play them when it's not your turn.
For a more detailed explanation of how the game is played, follow a link in the description. So, how is this specifically a Doctor Who version of Fluxx? Well, of the 100 cards in the pack, 69 are Doctor Who themed. I mean, there are some rules like draw 3, which you clearly can't make into a Doctor Who specific rule, but where they can, they have made things Doctor Who specific. Obviously, the first place that they do that is with the keepers, which is the cards that you collect to score the goals. And the first thing to say is that all the Doctors from the 1st through to the 12th are represented, and then there is another card representing the future Doctor. I understand that you can now add the War Doctor and Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor into the mix if you buy a little expansion. You also then have Tom Baker's scarf, the Sonic Screwdriver and the TARDIS, and then a bunch of companions, which are focused primarily on the RTD and then Matt Smith years. Although Capaldi is in here, he's only paired with Clara. There is no Bill and Nardole, which I think is a factor of when they were putting the game together. The Creepers, which are the bad cards, we have the Master, represented here by, I think it's supposed to be just the Delgado Master, but the face looks remarkably like Jonathan Pryce from The Curse of Fatal Death. Either way, this is a great representation of the classic series, rather than going with John Sim or Michel Gomez. And the Cybermen are represented by a whole collection of Cybermen from the classic and new Who, which is great. And then we have Daleks and Weeping Angels to round that out. The goals are all well thought through. You have things like Hello Sweetie, which is the 11th Doctor in River Song. You have Come Along Ponds, which is the 11th Doctor in the Ponds, for example. You have Would You Like a Jelly Baby, which is the 4th Doctor in his scarf. Grand Theft TARDIS matches the 1st Doctor with the TARDIS. The majority of Doctors don't get a specific goal, but there are plenty of goals in this pack which are just a Doctor and something. So the Doctors are still quite high-powered. And then there's one that I particularly like called Regeneration, where you just have to have 2 Doctors that are consecutive. I think that some of the cards that are less high-powered are the Companions, because some of them only appear in 1 or 2 goals. So they're less useful, but it's still nice to have them in the pack. And there are also plenty of goals which, although Creepers are generally bad, if you collect 3 Daleks, for example, that wins the game. Or if you match the Doctor with the Master, that also wins the game. So it's nice to have a mix of things that enable you to win if you get stuck with a Creeper. The other thing to add is just that although, as I said, most of the actions and rules are generic to all versions of Fluxx, they have thought about how they can make some of these more Doctor Who-y. There's a psychic paper one, for example, where you get to look at other people's hands. There's one called The Pandorica Has Been Opened, where you gather up all the creepers and then deal them out again, for example. And then I like the one new rule in particular. There are 3 that are Doctor Who related, but the Blinovitch limitation effect is a new rule in this game, which tickles me in particular. And it basically means that whoever's got the highest Doctor on the board keeps that, and all the rest of the Doctors get discarded, because you can't have more than one Doctor at once, which is lovely that they've thought about how you could apply a Doctor Who-y thing to a rule in the game. So I really like that. So mostly it's a big plus. There are 2 slight niggles that I have. One is the fact that there are, of the 8 creepers, 4 of them are Daleks. And I understand that they're the big monster, they're the one that everybody knows, and as I said, there is a goal where you can collect 3 and win. But I would like to have seen fewer Daleks and more of other monsters. That said, I think it does balance out nicely because you can get rid of a Dalek by eliminating it with the Doctor. So, and because there's lots of Doctors, it's very easy to get rid of Daleks. So it's nicely balanced in that way. I would just have liked to have seen a few more different monsters involved. And the other thing, I mentioned this before, the companions are very much new series centric, with the exception of K9 and Sarah Jane. And they're only there, I guess, because they've also appeared in the new series as well. So I would have liked them to have perhaps limited. I mean, they've had to kind of put Amy and Rory on one card anyway, just to get them in. But I would have liked them to have limited perhaps 1 companion per modern Doctor, and then there would have been room for putting a few more classic companions in. Maybe someone like Jamie for the 2nd Doctor, Tegan for the 5th Doctor, for example. I don't know. That would have been a decision that would have been hard fought out. But aside from those few niggles, really enjoyed playing the game. Really enjoyed the artwork. It's fantastic, and it's a nice Doctor Who version of Fluxx that I can heartily recommend. And I picked up my copy from the Games Den, which is a local board game shop and cafe here in Leamington Spa. And yeah, I think we'll end it there. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Luke Overthinks. Please subscribe, comment down below, let me know what you think, if there are any other versions of Fluxx that you particularly like that you can recommend to the viewers. And hopefully I'll see you again soon with another episode of Luke Overthinks.